Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Echo Live. My name is Anna, coming to you, as always, from the Michigan Science Center's Echo Distance Learning Studio. I am so excited to bring you a pretty fun challenge that I have set up today. But first things first, hello to everyone who's tuning in on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and even right here in Zoom. Go ahead, introduce yourself in the chat. Let me know where you are watching from. And I'm hoping that we are all excited for today's challenge. So I have with me today a challenge that we like to call the Balancing Nail Challenge. This is a really amazing physics trick that you can very easily try at home if you have just some nails, a hammer, and a piece of wood laying around. The challenge is very simple. Today we are going to be figuring out if we can balance 10 nails on the top of just one nail. So the only pre-work I've done before our episode today is I've gone ahead and I have nailed one nail into just a scrap piece of wood that I had laying around here in the studio. So this is going to be the balance point, or what we might call the fulcrum of our experiment today. And again, our challenge is to take 10 additional nails. So that's a total of 11 nails you'll need to construct this challenge on your own. And we are going to see if we can get all 10 of these nails that I have in my hand to balance right here on the top of this nail. Now, there's only a couple rules we have to follow. Is since they do need to be balanced, that means that we can't be using the piece of wood, the table, or your own hands in order to assist them. They need to be truly balanced on just this one nail. So when I started to think through this challenge, right, I had to first think about, what does it mean to balance? Right? What does it mean to balance? Well, in physics, when we're talking about balance, we're really just talking about getting a center of mass onto one central point. Now, we obviously balance, right? When we walk around every day, maybe if you are into playing any sort of sports, you might have a great sense of balance. But what balance means, right, is that all of your mass is generally lined up over your center. If you lean too far in either direction, it becomes pretty difficult to balance, which is exactly what would happen down here in our balancing nail challenge. So let's first start with just one nail, and let's see if we can find that center of mass, that central point that this nail can balance on. Now, if I were balancing it on the table, right, it's pretty easy for me to just put it straight up and down because the mass is equal across this center line or this central axis, right? There's an equal amount of weight in every opposite direction. And so the balance of this nail remains upright. But it becomes a little bit trickier, right, when we try to balance it on top of our nail that's been pounded into the wood here. We have to be very careful. So before we let it go, making sure that all that mass is lined up right over the center. But in this configuration, right, it doesn't leave me a lot of room to add the next nail. I could try to scoot it over, but I think that our center of mass for each of these two nails now is just a little too far off to the side. And so they don't quite stay. But let's try a different orientation. Maybe if we try balancing the nail horizontally instead of vertically, we can find a different center of mass. So if we go ahead and set it down exactly equal, we'll notice that this end, the end of my nail that has the head on it, is just a little bit heavier. So even though I'm lining up in the very center of the nail, since this end is a bit heavier, I actually have to adjust my center of mass slightly off to the side if I'd like to get them to balance. You have to be very careful when letting this go. So balancing even just one nail is pretty difficult. Let's see if we can add another. If I'm very careful and I line it up just perfectly, not having great luck, right? Now, like we said, this is a challenge, but I'm here to show you the answer, or at least my answer to the balancing nail challenge. I thought through all sorts of solutions. I considered flipping this upside down, stacking nails on top of the wood, but I didn't have great luck that way. But instead, what I thought I could do is, instead of constructing my solution to this balancing nail challenge on top of this nail, which requires a lot of very, very careful movement, I thought maybe I could design something that is perfectly balanced down here on the table, which I can then balance that final product here on top of the nail. So let me show you what I came up with. And keep in mind that just like in any engineering challenge, like the one I'm showing you here, there's never just one correct answer. So I'm going to show you what I came up with, but I definitely would love to know if any of you can come up with your own solution to the balancing nail challenge. All right, so what you're noticing I'm doing is I'm taking my one single nail, which I know I can balance on top of this nail here, and I'm treating that as my central point. If I add a nail to this side in this direction, I need to add something to counterbalance it in the opposite direction, which is keeping that center of mass close to the center of my one nail. So I am just alternating nails back and forth, one on each side, trying my best to keep all of the mass as centered as possible so that I can easily balance it on the fulcrum. All right. Now we talked about, right, that the head of the nail, the flat part on top, is the heaviest part of the nail. And so that's actually helpful in the design that I've created, is keeping all of that mass pretty close to the center is also going to help when I go to balance the rest of this challenge here on top of my nail. So far, my nail is pretty balanced. I've got one central point, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 nails on this side, and 1, 2, 3, 4 nails on this side. But what to do with my final nail here, right? If I were to add it to this side, it could very slightly throw off my balance. Same thing goes if I were to put it on the other side. But what I can actually use this final nail for is actually going to help me when I go to transport my design. Because if I were to pick it up now, you'll notice didn't quite work out the way I had planned, right? So we'll just quickly set it back up, one nail on each side. Remember, always alternating, keeping our center of mass as close to the center as we can possibly get it. And then instead of picking it up just like this, I'm going to use my 10th nail, or really my 11th nail in the entire challenge, to form kind of a lock. So when I go to pick up my design this time, the heads of those nails are actually going to grab on, and it's going to hold my entire design together. Now, this is the last step, but it is, of course, the most important, is getting my design to balance on top of our one single nail head. If you try this at home, don't let it go too early. Make sure that you're shifting back and forth. And would you look at that? 10 nails balanced on the top of just one nail. Remember, if you'd like to try this at home, of course, get some adult supervision because you will need some nails and a hammer. But this is a pretty fun challenge, really inexpensive and easy for you to build. And it, of course, ties in the important principles in physics, talking about center of mass. So this is the solution that I've come up with. But like we said, this is not the only answer. I wonder if you at home could find a different way to balance 10 nails on a single nail. Or do you think you could balance more? What if I told you that I've been able to balance 32 nails on the top of just one nail by building off of this design and tweaking it ever so slightly? If you come up with a solution to this challenge, take a picture and post it in the chat, and maybe we can all share our solutions together. I'll take a picture of one of my bigger designs, and I will share that with you as well. So I really hope you guys try this one at home. It is one of my favorites. And so I want to say thank you for joining us here on Echo Live today. A couple quick reminders before we head out is that the Michigan Science Center is hosting a Scopes in the City nighttime telescope program next week in celebration of Earth Day. So if you are in the Detroit area and you'd like to stop by that evening between 4:30 and 8 p.m., it is free. You can register for tickets on our website, and you can stop by, try out some Earth and space science activities with us, come inside, check out the activities, and try out our telescopes, which will be outside on the John R. sidewalk. We are also hosting in-person summer camps this year. We are so excited. If you are interested in joining us for summer camps, you can register on our website. There are 8 weeks with 8 awesome themes. You'll get to try out experiments like this one, design and test your own engineering design challenges, and even maybe try some things like chemistry or game design with the help of our awesome summer camp educators. So thanks everyone so much for joining us for another episode of Echo Live. I hope I'll see you back here next week at 2.